Hello, Priorities Tubers, and welcome back to Let's Play. That was bad. Welcome back to Let's Play Xenonauts X Division with me, Blue Ankylo. We've been talking with the chat a little bit about, what's going on next, and, we got some priorities. Some things need to be researched or captured more than others. Sadly, last episode, we did not capture the size and weapon sergeant that would give us better sonic weapons, so we still have lousy Phase 4 weapons. On the plus side, we did capture a couple things last UFO wave, so we got this Sizen Professor and some Xenomorphs to have a look at, as well as a couple new Robo-Andron things. And of course, not to spoil anything, we just got a bunch of new data cores from UFOs. That is likely to unlock some tech as well. So let's get to it. Sizen Professor. Hey look! Extreme stun grenades! So this happens pretty much every phase, but I'm always a fan of getting better capture rates. Makes it easier to capture the more difficult stuff. I'd say getting these early on in a phase should be a good priority for you if you're playing along, because then capturing the terror soldiers or the more difficult aliens to capture, you'll have a better chemical way to do it, at least if chemicals work. Heavy stun rockets, except oh, I forgot, C-Team just did those missions. I forgot to queue stuff up for them. Let's see if they've got anything worth disassembling. They did a scout and a battle cruiser, so maybe somebody dropped something useful. I meant to do this between episodes, but, I got too busy looking up Amiga games. No time for this stuff. I think, we're not going to have any more we're not going to get very many tier 3 grenades, but once we finish this extreme gas, all these teams that have done Sizen missions will have some tier 4 stun. Extreme lasers, hey, I'll take it. Add more X's, it's clearly superior. We didn't capture any of the correct drones for disassembly. We can focus more on that later on. There should be a new wreckage, and we got another pistol out of the doctor, but I think a lot of the stuff we'll have to wait until, the research finishes up. I think ancient weapons, Horror and Defender, this will be primarily a terror weapon, or the Praetors. Extreme alien grenades, yeah. That's another one I would like to see. And honestly, I want to see X-Rail and X-Sonic, because to start with, these have been pretty bad. Anyway, things are progressing. Not as much, maybe, as I was hoping, but we do have both engineers already captured for Phase 4, so we're ahead of the curve by a long shot already. And we will hopefully get some weapon tech soon enough. Mostly, as long as your engineers are working, I'm not going to complain too much, or your researchers. If you run out of things to research, then you're wasting your early, you're not catching up with the aliens fast enough, Alright, so a couple missions ago we caught a Crimson Warrior. We get some more damage against Xenomorphs. They tell you a little bit about their stats. It's the same as usual, just a bit stronger and faster. No tech from him, but maybe from the Praetorian. Alright, Bomber Battleship. That was the big one. So this guy was really hard to shoot down. This was, so far, possibly the most difficult ship for me to shoot down we've ever seen. It's got all kinds of weapons, but no defense. Torpedoes, missiles, cannons, and they can shoot perfect 360 range. They do give us a ton of heavy weapon systems. So this is great if you want to build, tier 4 weapons and aircraft. So this is a great mission to do. It's just hard to shoot down, and of course it's a battleship, so lots of aliens. But we can shoot them down, so hey, we're doing fine. Thankfully, we unlocked some new vehicles already. So we've already got an upgrade to our bombers. The Furies were the tier 3 bombers. The Merlins are the tier 4. They also have 2 torpedoes. Now, it's not going to be a huge upgrade, but hey, I'm a fan of having better aircraft. Interceptor. This was the Tier 4 early phase of Tier 4 fighter. There are stronger ones than this, but for now, this is what we're dealing with. They're very fast and pretty durable, and they're stupidly agile. Right, too much dub. But thanks to shooting those down, which isn't too hard, now we can learn how to build, well, we can repurpose them thanks to the pilots we captured already in Phase 4. But this is our Tier 4 aircraft interceptor upgrade. This is the double cannons. We didn't get one of these in Phase 3. So our Tier 2 interceptors, we will want to upgrade into these. It's not really a Marauder. Marauders had a cannon and a heavy mount. So anyway, this will be pretty high priority. We've also got the beam and an upgrade to our anti-missile system. I really do like how X Division gives you so many upgrades just by clearing a couple basic UFOs. It's not like, even if you didn't capture a single thing, you would still get a big upgrade to your air game. So I'm a fan of that. Anyway, torpedo corvettes. These guys were pretty easy to shoot down. Sure, they've got torpedoes and stuff, but they've got a blind spot behind them. They're not very agile, and basically like all the previous corvettes, we've been taking them out pretty easily. This will give us a... I think this is the upgrade to the Lotus's missile that we've been using. The rapid fire, yeah, upgrade to the sonic missile. This is what we would use to bypass aliens with point defense, or UFOs with point defense. Fires really quickly, and then therefore the big torpedoes can sneak in without getting shot down. Robodog Terror Elite, we got from the Andron mission from B Team, which the kinetic resistance has left forget it completely. We did try to hit these with a sword, and it did 0 damage, so I'm not too surprised. I think the axe still pierced, but you know, kinetic is not the primary way of defeating them. Also, we continue to get passive damage increases, which hey, passive damage upgrades, I'm all over that. So B Team did all the Andron missions. They could have some of those Robodogs. Apparently not. That's okay. They must have just been one from the mission. Battle Cruiser. That's the mission we did last episode. It's a bigger cruiser. It's faster. It does have countermeasures. So you want to shoot a wide range of torpedoes or one of those like sonic torpedoes to overwhelm the countermeasures. But firing, you know, a wave of 3 bombers with 2 each, 6 torpedoes he cannot shoot down at once. So, you know, this guy didn't seem too hard to shoot down. Pretty good value. 4 heavy engines, 4 heavy weapons, 2 extreme controls. Those are kind of our bottlenecks for our current aircraft upgrades. So we'll probably keep doing battle cruisers for a while. We might not do all the small UFOs regularly if there's not a lot of reward, but this stuff is going to be good for getting our air upgrades. And like, although we're in Phase 4, there is one more air upgrade coming for the aliens before the end of the game. Of course, this unlocks even more stuff. We've got a Night Owl. We've got all the air upgrades. This one will have a missile and a torpedo. So, okay, this will be the upgrade to the Drake. We didn't really build any Drakes because we had Lotuses. And this would be torpedoes with anti-missile systems. So some UFOs require this kind of vehicle, and this would be, if you didn't have any Lotuses or Cyclones, the kind of thing you'd want to get teching on. Probably for those battleships, this you might need something like this, or, you know, anything that shoots missiles at you, you need some way of shooting them down. So, you know, that sounds good for later, maybe, if we want some more. Should be a scout. Yeah, there you go. Armored Scout. He has those mini mines. They're kind of annoying. Mines, beams, missiles, countermeasures. Yeah, kind of difficult to deal with, I guess. Not as much value for doing these missions, though, because we don't get any heavy engines or heavy weapons. We probably won't worry about doing these in general. They're pretty quick missions in overall, but the rewards are really small. On the plus side, we've got 2 more air weapons. Probably an upgrade to the mines, and another rapid-fire short-range missile, I think. We'll have to have a look at it. I don't know if the Piranha is better than the Warp, but, you know, we've got 2 more missile weapons. We'll have a look at them. We'll do some air analysis later on. Alright. Extreme Alien Stun Grenade. Luckily, I don't think they've... Did they use any of these? I think back on the large base, the Seisons, one of them used this, and it, like, instantly knocked somebody out. So, they're pretty effective, you know. Pretty effective. We could have been picking them up and using them against the Seisons in the mission that we could grab them from dead Seisons. But, let's just learn how to turn them into grenades. Because then you get 2 each, and that's better. More bang for your buck. Alright, Praetorian. I think this is the final tier of Praetorian. Maybe. It's at a limit of how large it can get. It's got better armor. Standard stuff. We do a little bit more damage to them. You still get 8 chitin and 1 fang. It's just really not much different than the previous tier. Same reward exactly, I think. But... by the power of katana, let's learn how to make a better sword. That sounds good. Somebody's really excited about that in chat. I guarantee it. We didn't capture any extras of those, though. Oh, I did want to check, though. Like, I was saying, I think they have the same rewards. So the red Praetorian was 1, 8 chitin, 1 fang. It's exactly the same. Warriors... Tier 3, Tier 4 are the same. Drones are the same. Queen is the same. I kind of wish that the Phase 4 versions gave us a little bit more. But, whatever. We kind of just cheat in extra axes as we want them anyway. But if you're really trying to gather up enough of these chitins and fangs to build the melee weapons, boy, do you really need to focus and capture a lot. Because the Phase 4 melee weapons, they require a lot. 32 chitin and 3 fangs. That's quite a lot of work. Killer Disc. So this is the Phase 4 Cyber Disc. Nothing really special. We actually blew it up pretty effectively, so I'm not terribly worried about that. I don't suppose you killed 2 of them accidentally. Nope, just the one. Hey, look! This katana is way more blue. This is way better. It's also lighter. So, you know, I think that's the next melee weapon I'm going to want to build. Just saying, I think that's what I'm going to want. Let's get... An easy upgrade is to get the anti-missile systems, because you don't have to build these. Pro tank left? Hold on. But now, we have the ability... to make blue swords. Right? Is it better? Oh, it's better. Protection from blue. No circle of protection blue allowed. So it does 50 more damage than the Mark II, the Mark 1. So 80 damage up to 130. That's a nice upgrade. And it ignores 40 more armor. Another nice upgrade. The reaction modifier is insane. This was from the Tier 4 Praetorian. It weighs less, which is quite nice. 6 kilograms, that helps a lot, actually. And it still costs less time units to swing it. Now, the axe still does a lot more damage. 250 is still a lot more than 130. Like, almost double. So I still think the axe Mark IV is probably better. But now, at least, it weighs 7. The sword is actually lighter, so that gives it a somewhat advantage there. It uses a little bit less time units. It weighs a little bit less. It has a better reaction modifier. You know, that's okay. So I definitely want to build one. Plus, it's a blue sword. I mean, come on. What do you think? You think I'm not going to build a blue sword? It actually might cost a little bit less as well, which is one more thing in its favor. The axe is 3 fangs. The katana is only 2 fangs. So that's a nice discount. We do have 1 fang ready to go. So if we can capture 1 more Praetorian, probably we'll be able to build it, assuming we have enough chitin. 14 chitin. 14, yeah, if we can find 1 more Praetorian. And Praetorians aren't that hard to capture. We'll get a cool katana upgrade. Someday we're going to get a beige sword. I don't know. I bet you the final tier, if there is a Mark III katana, it'll probably just be like purple. The most anime of colors. It'll just be black. And it won't be called Katana Mark III. It'll be called Death Killer. Okay, we've got ourselves a new aircraft. The Contrail is our upgraded interceptor. So, I've rambled about this plenty of times. I was not happy with the Mark III or the Phase 3 aircraft for interceptions because they didn't get double cannons. So we still have our old Corsairs, which have been fine. But now we've got the Contrail, and this is a double tier upgrade. So we're going from Phase 2 to Phase 4. So our speed and everything is going to go up significantly. Like over 1,000 kilometer an hour upgrade to speed. Considerable improvement to both acceleration and turn rate, which makes it much better at dogfighting. The radar doesn't really matter, but the durability is doubled, which also helps a lot. And, you know, it costs a lot more in maintenance, but money is no issue, so this is great. If you're wondering where the image comes from, it's also a Firebird, right? Same basic look, just bluer, and bluer is better. So that's one interceptor upgrade. Let's look at... Well, the Merlin will be the bomber upgrade. But in theory, I could start building contrails right now. So I will. We're just going to upgrade our first 3 bases of Corsairs to contrails. The first priority is just to get a squad, 3 packs of 3, basically. And then we'll look into, like, when we can afford more, we'll build them everywhere eventually. Hey there, look. Amazing sneak peek, yeah. We've progressed a lot at this point. This is Phase 4. We're getting pretty far into it now. Alright, so all we're going to do is just unequip the current Corsair and sell it, and then give it to the new Interceptor. That way I don't have to build new weapons. It's a minimum of micromanagement. Although, you know, we won't have infinite resources. In fact, we already know... I think B Team needs 3 heavy engines, and C Team will need 2 more extreme. So do we have enough spares, basically? Yeah, we could send 2 extremes to C Team and 5 engines to B Team, right? Sorry, 3 engines. 3 heavy engines to B Team, 2 extreme controls to C Team. Let's do that. I could have done that a little earlier, but, you know, micromanagement. Alright, A Team to B Team. Engines. Resources, aircraft, heavy engines. 1, 2, 3. A Team to C Team. Resources, aircraft, extreme control 2. And that should be enough for everyone to get the 3 of each. You know, we could save these for the Merlins, but I think for now, getting the interceptors upgraded is the priority. Because our bombers, well, I mean, we have to talk about the bombers eventually, but basically, the Furies are going to cover most of what we need for bombers, and the difficult ships, like those battleships, the upgraded bombers, the pure bombers, they're not going to do all that well anyway because they don't have any anti-missile tech. Particle anti-missile. So, unfortunately, I guess there's not a lot to talk about with these guys. It's simple in the sense that the previous tier of anti-missile is exactly the same except for total ammo. There's not a lot to compare. You just get 12 more shots. So you can last longer against a UFO that fires more missiles at you. It just doesn't really give you any big advantage other than just staying power in a long air combat. But it's an easy upgrade, right? Other things to research. There's some of these that we could probably upgrade to quickly as well. I want to get like the Warp Missile and the Piranha Missile, because they should be an upgrade for some of our existing missile tech. Can't build the... Oh, we're waiting for... I should have queued up that earlier, but, you know, we're waiting for the resources there. Alright, contrail number 2. This is A-Team's second one. No big deal. A little bit of air game. Air base management. Nice looking aircraft. Build your final one. And then we're basically out of the extreme controls, so we'll have to do more UFOs to even build more stuff at this point. It's nice that we had some leftovers, though. You don't necessarily have... Like, the only place to get those extreme controls was from terror ships in the past. So, the fact that we had a few left over into Phase 4 definitely is helping me out right now. If you're playing along, maybe don't spend every single extreme control on the Cyclones or the Lotuses. Maybe save a few so that when you get to Phase 4, you can get some of these contrails as well. Because I think they're going to make a pretty big difference in our anti-interceptor battle. Now, I will want to try to find an upgraded weapon for them at some point. But for now, the Tier 3 beams will be fine. Speaking of weapons we could upgrade, actually. We have the research to get the upgraded Hunter Beam already. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be worth building, but we could jump straight to it rather than waiting for Sonic or Railtech. Actually, we might already have the railgun. And it was just bad, right? Aircraft cannons, yeah. So we have the Tier 4 rail weapon for aircraft, but I don't think it's good. I think we looked at this when we first researched it, and although the DPS is fine, it's just low rate of fire, high damage per hit, but the firing arc is so bad that these Hunter Beams, the one we're currently using, are really good. And if we wanted to, we actually could upgrade to these pulse weapons, which are probably a lot better, but kind of expensive to build. We only built them for our Cyclones so far, but if we get a lot of alien heavy weapons, it might be worth upgrading some of the interceptors as well, because this will do a ton of DPS. Like, times 6, we're looking at like 70 DPS versus 300 RPMs. The Hunter Beam, well, it's at about 40. But that's still almost double the DPS, so pretty darn good. Extreme Stun Gas, it's more extreme, there's more X's. We could definitely be researching a little bit quicker right now by splitting up our researchers and not doing 50 per thing. But, you know, it's not like there's much else to do. But we'll have our contrail upgrades probably by the next wave. So that's quite like... I feel like this was pretty good. I'm pretty happy with our progress for our air game. I think when I did my first campaign, I did not have the extreme controls available. So when I got to Phase 4, I could not build these for a long time. Because you got to get like 2 UFOs of the same type before you can even disassemble them. So this should give us a nice upgrade. Oh, I should do this too. It doesn't make the biggest of differences, but let's upgrade anyone that has the old anti-missile system to the new anti-missile system. Might as well have the new tech. And that'll be all of our Lotuses at the final tier of anti-missile technology. And there's our Furies. We'll look at their upgrades in a bit. But I'd say their upgrades are probably lower priority. The Cyclones also can get the anti-missile tech. It is very important to have some anti-missile style bombers. Clearly. At some point we might phase the Lotuses out. I'd like to see how they match up against the Night Owls. The regular Tier 4 anti-missile bomber. Whereas the Lotuses were like a Phase 2 ship, but, you know, advanced for Phase 2. Sort of special. So we will definitely check that out shortly. Everybody is upgraded to particle anti-missiles. Warp missiles. So this will be a sonic missile upgrade. So if you liked sonic missiles, you should like warp missiles. They're exactly the same, except for one thing. 2 things. they shoot twice as fast, and you carry 20 more. So if you like them, these are better. But otherwise, the stats are identical. Am I going to build any right now? Maybe. Depends on how much they cost. We've got... Oh, I want to get this interceptor beam going too. I kind of think the most difficult part of the upcoming air game is maybe just getting the interceptor, like air superiority is kind of priority. The bombers maybe are okay because they're not as old as the Corsairs in only phase 2, right? Let's queue up this particle piranha as well. I'm curious how this matches up to the warp missiles. Short range though, we'll see. But like, I am considering upgrading my sonic missiles here to warp missiles. It only costs 4 alloys and 1 alenium. It's definitely not free, but we could upgrade all the Lotuses to those if we wanted. The only vessels that would want them right now are the Lotuses, and we have I think 8 or 10 of them. So for like 10, for 40 alloys and 10 alenium, that's not too bad. We could certainly upgrade that. But I want to see what the other comparison is, because the other option will be the Piranha missile, I think. So let's see how its stats look before we commit. Meanwhile, the Merlin is our bomber upgrade. Not a lot of details here, but it's better than the Fury. It does have double heavy mounts, which I love heavy mounts. The difference is smaller than the Corsair to the Contrail, which is not surprising. But it does have another 500 kilometers an hour. It's got a bit more acceleration. Turns a little bit better, but not much better. You know, like +5, small differences. And plus 250 to HP. Definitely a small upgrade. I wouldn't say this is a high priority. The main difference is speed, which is nice. You know, 500 more kilometers an hour gets you across the map faster, and in combat gets us to our target a bit quicker. You know, if we're doing the circles around the Terror Dreadnoughts, these guys are even faster, so it's got a better chance of dodging those annoying beams, or the annoying sort of missile tech that the Dreadnoughts had. But other than that, we didn't need that anyway. The Furies were doing fine, so we'll have to see if I feel like I need it. If we look at the cost to build, you know, another extreme and 3 heavy weapons each. So they're not, you know, it's going to take a while before I have that kind of resources. Plus, I can use heavy weapon systems for other things, like upgrading our other weapons. So, let's just say maybe one day, but kind of lower priority. Sorry, Merlin. We've already got our sword in the stone. Meanwhile, in ground combat, extreme stun rockets. There's not going to be too much more to research this phase. So, I already know, because we did a sneak peek last stream, I already know how awesome this new rocket's going to be. You shall not pass. The extreme stun rocket is a lot better than the heavy stun rocket. It does 45 more on-hit stun damage, chemical stun damage, and it ignores 50 armor, which isn't a whole lot more, like it's 10 more. But the main thing is, like, if you're fighting something that's weak to chemicals, it probably won't have more than 50 chemical armor. And then 175 stun damage is a lot. Plus, the gas itself does 141 stun damage per tile. So that's a lot, and this is going to be, I think, our best way of capturing, well, anything that's not immune to chemicals. So, like, sure, Xenomorphs are kind of immune to chemicals, so this doesn't help against them. Sizens and Civilians should be relatively weak to it. Harridans might be immune to chemicals enough that this doesn't work, but this still might even be enough to capture a Harridan. And certainly Wraiths are actually weak to chemicals, so this is going to be a nice way to capture some of those terror guys, or just deal with them when they're being jerks. So I think we definitely want to build some if we can, and we actually have quite a few ready. Now, I'm going to want to turn some of these alien grenades into our own grenades, but I actually think the rockets have the priority this time. Usually I only build a couple rockets. But I'm going to build mostly rockets this time. For the first time. We're also going to have to spread them out with the other bases. Well, not too bad. B team will need to get some from A team, but that's fine. Meanwhile, the extreme stun grenade comes in a second later. We'll have a look at it now. So the reason I wasn't as excited for building those this time around is, although it looks pretty cool, and it's certainly better than the tier 3 stun grenade, going from 81 stun gas to 116 stun gas. Otherwise, it's not much better. Same radius, same gas fill, like 80% of the tiles have gas in them. It actually weighs 2 kilograms rather than 1.5, and a little bit better accuracy reduction, but, you know, otherwise, it's an upgrade, but it's kind of a small upgrade, right? Now, going from 81 stun to 116, that's a nice upgrade, right? 81 all the way to 116, but to build these is the same resources as the rockets. So really, they're competing against rockets, and rockets have 141 stun gas, and the 175 on hit. So if you really want to stun something, this is the way to do it. And the gas from this rocket has a 90% fill rate, which is, you know, a lot more than 80%. And it's got a bigger radius, and the stun gas does more stun damage itself. So the gas is better, it's thicker, it also does more damage on hit. Is there anything else I should say? It's just better. So anyway, that was my story. I'm still going to bring stun grenades. They have the advantage of being anyone can throw them. So there's still that. But the rockets are kind of my priority for hard captures. Yeah, the armor mitigation I think makes a big difference too. It's that on hit. Like, I don't trust leaving a cloud of smoke that they have to run through to fall asleep. I want them to fall asleep now, so they can't shoot me or run away or be killed by something else. And that's what the stun rocket really gets you. I didn't use the stun rockets as much in phase 1, 2, and 3, but now they're in phase 4 and enemies get a ton of resistances in general. Everything has more armor now, so getting through that armor is difficult. And we've seen tier 3 chemical grenades do nothing to the tier 4 Seisons, so I wouldn't expect the stun grenades to do all that much either, you know. One thing that's cool is, you know, they get built really fast as well. So let's share the wealth. We'll send some to B team. And if we have an important mission, we've already got the right stuff to capture. You know, I really want to catch those weapon sergeants. A couple stun rockets, extreme stun rockets, should be really good at capturing them. So extreme stun. We'll send 10, because I'm a nice Ankylo. And we'll send them some of the stun grenades as well. Extreme stun grenades. You can have 5 of those. And C team's got enough for now. So that's that. Moving on, moving on. So much science. Okay, so the interceptor beam. This is the weapon that the alien interceptors use. And this is a tier 4 interceptor. Tier 4 beam. Excuse me, beam weapon. So I'm assuming it's a straight upgrade to the hunter beam, right? This is what we're currently using for a good number of our interceptors. Let's just call them superiority fighters, right? Our superiority fighters. So the difference is plus 10 damage per hit, which is a nice upgrade. Plus we're at that double rate of fire compared to normal. So that brings our DPS from 40 over 300 to 60 over 300, which is a lot. Now, it doesn't quite catch up with the particle pulse. The particle pulse has about 72 over 300 RPM. So in terms of DPS, it's not quite as high as the particle pulse, but it is 50% higher than the hunter beam. And this has the range, 2.4 kilometers. It's more standard for what I typically do in combat. Another nice long-range cannon-style weapon. And the ammo capacity actually went down, interestingly enough. 60 ammo down to 47. The total damage, I'm sure, went up, but it still runs out of ammo a little bit quicker. Instead of 1,200 total damage, this guy can do 1,410, I think. So an extra 200 total damage, but it runs out of ammo a little bit quicker, if that matters. And firing arc is actually better. So this might be the ideal beam-style weapon compared to alternates. Like, the rail cannon looks really trash in comparison. Really trash. But what is really happening here, though, is this weapon needs to compete with the Particle Pulse. The Particle Pulse uses 2 heavy weapon systems. The Interceptor Beam uses 3. So, although it has some advantages, it technically does less DPS with way less arc. Remember, the firing arc on the Particle Pulse is like your entire ship, practically. It says 160, but like, it can fire backwards, just not 100% backwards. Like, I don't think this is the correct firing arc. It's more like 300 degrees or 280 degrees. Because it's not, like 180 would be a half circle. This is more than half a circle, not less than half a circle. So anyway, maybe a little mistake on the XPD or something. But two heavy weapons for the best DPS so far, with a relatively low range but amazing arc, versus 3 heavy weapons for almost as good DPS with standard range and honestly, it's still a very good arc. It's actually a tough call. I'm not sure which one I really want. They both have a sort of what you're good at. What type of air weapon are you better at using? Because they're slightly different in how you move around the aliens, the UFOs. But yeah, unless the Wikipedia was wrong, let me check the cost here. Yeah, Particle Pulse, 2 heavy weapons, and 3. Yeah, so at least that was correct. So we don't really have any spare of either of those, I don't think. So we can't really make that decision right now, because I spent them all. But as we start getting more heavy weapon systems, I will probably want to be upgrading some of our contrails to those types of weapons. I might want to build more contrails first, depends on... I think the contrails only use 1. Actually, the contrails don't use any heavy weapon systems. So we'll build as many contrails as we can, and we'll turn the alien heavy weapons into weapons for the contrails. That will take priority over any Merlins. Now, we can also build Cyclones and other sort of advanced fighters out of the regular UFO parts now. We don't need to wait for battleships or terror battleships. But they're still really expensive overall for heavy weapons, right? So I want to upgrade those contrails first and get some better tier 4 guns. Speaking of tier 4 guns, here's the Particle Piranha. It's an upgrade to the Piranha, and it's cheap. It's just alloys and aluminium. So same kind of idea as the Warp. It's actually kind of cheap to build. But which one is better? So this is an upgrade to the Piranha. The Piranha was way back in Phase 2. The Particle Piranha basically gets... oh boy, lots of changes. $45, $800, $017. Okay, double the ammo, first and foremost. Double the rate of fire. That's it. Okay, so. This guy, low range, but definitely a good upgrade over the Piranha. So then, which one do we want on our Lotuses? The Warp Missile or the Particle Piranha? They both do the same damage per hit. The Warp Missile is long range, slower projectile speed. You fire 600 RPM and 60 capacity with a low firing arc. The Particle Piranha has a wide firing arc but very low range. I don't think we want this one. The purpose for me of using these type of weapons is to overwhelm an enemy's point defense system. You can't really do that at 800 meters. Like, it'll definitely hit and do a lot of damage if you can stay next to it. But the difficult UFOs you can't just stay next to because they kill you. You know, you've got to be able to have some range on the large UFOs or else you get shot to pieces. So I think this is kind of like, it's a high damage sort of shotgun almost style missile launcher. But the warp missiles, I think, are more... Like, they still fire kind of slow. The projectiles are kind of slow. Like, if we're firing torpedoes at the same time, these missiles, with a nice long range, they only travel at, 4,500 kilometers an hour. The big torpedoes, the fusions, they travel almost twice as fast. So, if you fire these at the same time, they will travel faster and they will get shot down by the point defense. So you've got to kind of time your shots a little bit if you're trying to do that. You've got to let a bunch of the little missiles go first, and then behind them send in the fusion torpedoes. So it makes it a little bit more complicated. Or instead, we could team up and use two of the same types of weapons. The particle torpedo is coming, and maybe that is a good match for the warp missiles, because they're both going to be similar style, long range, low projectile speed. So maybe that's the trick. Anyway, let's have a look at the rest of the tech we can research. We'll probably get another alien attack in seconds anyway. We've researched the Night Owl, which replaces the Drake. We didn't build any Drakes, like I said. It's a decent upgrade, Tier 3 to Tier 4, decent upgrade. It's still going to be probably worse than the Lotus. Well, okay, it's faster than the Lotus, which is better. The Lotus is much more nimble. Much better acceleration and turn. No. Just acceleration. So the Night Owl accelerates slower, but has better speed and turning than the Lotus. It has the same HP, and all we're losing would be the second hard point. Also, hey there, Tim. So if I want to build Night Owls, I would lose that warp missile option, for instance. But we would have a torpedo and an anti-missile system on a very speedy, nimble jet. Even more nimble than the Lotuses. So maybe. I don't know. I think if you didn't have Lotuses, you'd have to build more of these, Drakes and Night Owls, and this is a nice upgrade to the Night Owl, or nice upgrade to the Drake. But since we have the Lotuses, I don't know if I like it all that much. It's hard to say. How hard is it to build them is maybe the more important question. Night Owls require 2 heavy weapons and 1 extreme. They're pretty cheap overall, but they do require those heavy weapon systems. Luke has upgraded to yellow Ankylo. Congratulations. Yeah, you need a few basic points to play the minigames, I guess. You get Ankylo points from watching the stream or playing the games and winning. And you will eventually rank up as you get enough of them. Exclamation point. We saw rank already. If you go exclamation point points, it'll give you a bit more information, I think. Alright, so more air weapons. Now we've got a particle torpedo. I haven't traditionally been a fan of this line of torpedoes, gravity, neutrino, particle, because they're slow travel. But if we're comparing it to neutrino, it's a little bit longer range, a little bit more damage per torpedo, a little bit less ammo, still a fast lock-on time for a missile, fires quickly for a missile, and the travel speed is very slow. What's an Ankylo? They're all from, well, you can probably guess. They're all from Final Fantasy 1 originally, but, you know, Ankylo is short for something. How much damage is this? The second best dinosaur. Definitely not a small dog, though, I can tell you that much. We're looking at 4,500? Or 4,000... Yeah, 4,500, right? That's times 20. Math is so hard when you're me. No, when you're streaming. So 4,500 total damage compared to the fusion torpedo, which would be the replacement here, which does, well, less than that, but 3,300 or 3,400 around. So it has a higher damage potential. It's got much longer range, but you have to fire them and then get out of the way. The advantage here might be that you can combo this 10,000 meter range at relatively low arc with Where is it? With these warp missiles, which have a similar range, they actually travel a fair bit faster. But this would get us an extra 2,400 damage. I guess you could do this... Like, the Lotus can do that. But the Lotus can't do side rolls. Like, you know, the dodge roll. So... who would we actually give those to? Like, the Cyclone can equip a missile mount and a torpedo mount and do dodge rolls. Because you have to basically... what I'm trying to say is, like, if there's a UFO in the middle, you have to face towards it to fire those torpedoes or warp missiles. They have a small firing arc. You can't really fly around it a lot. So these guys could, you know, fly towards it, do a barrel roll to the side, fly towards it, do a barrel roll to the side, to dodge the incoming missiles. You can't really get... an arc, you know, again, UFO in the middle. You can't fly perpendicular to it and fire a torpedo off the side like we normally do and still dodge the incoming projectiles with those weapons. So, like, the Cyclone is one of the few that can do a roll every time to dodge the missiles. But it would still probably need an anti-missile system because the drones, a lot of enemy drones just chase after you even if you barrel roll. So you could only have the torpedo mount, and then the cannon isn't a missile. I still don't really know when I would want to bring those alternate torpedoes, you know? Like, these particle torpedoes. I haven't really found a place I like them. Hey, look! We're rich! Here's $10 million. Robo Reaper Terror Elite. You guessed it. It's stronger than the normal Robo Reaper Elite. Now we can do more damage to them. This one actually gives us some fibers and alloys, so that's great. Sure. Nothing really new here, specifically. It's surprisingly... I guess it's surprisingly weak to chemical, but I've never really had a good chemical weapon to use on a Robo Reaper. I don't know why a Robo Reaper is weak to chemical, specifically, but... interesting. Interesting. Just interesting. No new research from it. Alright, well, looks like we're pretty much done our exciting research phase. But we got some new aircraft. That's good. Okay, Battle Cruiser Spear Cannon. I've never... again, another one of these weapons I've never really found a good use for. But I'm sure it's a straight upgrade over the previous tier, which was... the Cruiser. You know, the Cruiser did 240 damage, 3 shots at pretty long range for a cannon, but doesn't really work on interceptors, I don't think. So this is if you want to give, I guess, maybe this is the kind of weapon I should put on the Cyclone. But then the Cyclone can't defeat interceptors. If you want to make one of your torpedo ships focus on large UFOs and not bring regular cannons, you could give them one of these. But it's not even really much better. Like, our total damage output is still only 990. And we already know the beams can do more damage in total anyway. Just not quite as long range. I still don't really know when I would ever use this. I think it needs more ammo. If this is supposed to be anti-large UFO, it needs to have, like, enough total damage to do more total damage than the rapid fire beams. That's kind of my point. If this doesn't work on enemy interceptors, if it's only for big UFOs, it needs something else for it. Good damage per hit, but it doesn't really do anything else. It does rate of fire really slow too. The DPS isn't even all that good, because the interceptor beam fires at 600 RPM. So 30 damage, how much faster is that? 13 to 600? That's a lot faster. Like 50 times faster, nearly. So 50 hits of 30, I mean, you're out of ammo. In the time this thing fires once, before it even reloads, you've used your entire stack of ammo to do whatever damage, you know, around 1400 damage. And this thing, at best, does 990. I don't think that's going to be ever very good. Someone, I'm sure, knows how to use it. Someone else loves it and says it's the best weapon, but for me, I don't know how that works, so... Stealth mines. I tried to build some mines back in phase 3, but I didn't really get a good use for them. These do more damage. A little bit more damage, but not much different. You do need alloys again to build them. They travel really slow, and anything that I tried to use them on just moved out of the way. So they don't last forever. They eventually, you know, self-destruct or something. So they, yeah, I don't know. Again, I can't really see a good reason to use them. I'm pretty sure the enemy interceptors just dodge out of them anyway, or the point defense shoots them down, so it doesn't really help. Oh, good! Oh, well, it's time for another wave of UFOs, and we start with double massive. Wasn't I just saying we needed more battleships to give us some more heavy weapon systems? Don't worry, one of them's a battle carrier. That's different. That's a new one, at least. So our second bomber battleship and our first battle carrier. Okay, what else do we get? Just a scout. We've seen that. A torpedo corvette. We've seen that. Oh, good. A terror dreadnought. Yay. At least it's a tier 3 terror ship. We're not getting the tier 4 terror ships yet. Another bomber battleship. Alright, we're going to take a pause here, future tubers. I hope you enjoyed your science episode. Next time, it's going to be air game episode and then a mission episode. So, second UFO wave of phase 4. Let's see if we can shoot stuff down. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and have a great day.